True Story Media.
This is an ad.
I hate ads!
An ad for crisp, refreshing Angry Orchard hard cider.
That is refreshing.
An ad that interrupted your podcast.
I hate being interrupted!
To remind you to stop being angry at me and crack open an Angry Orchard.
That's a good idea.
Don't get angry! Get Orchard. Angry Orchard Cider Company, LLC. AngryOrchard.com. Please drink responsibly. Angry Orchard is a hard cider with other natural flavors.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
This podcast contains adult themes and language, and some of the things that we discuss may be disturbing to some listeners. In this podcast, we discuss sexual assault, torture, race, and murder. Listener discretion is advised. Please take care of yourself.
Welcome to Fruit Loops, Buiti Binafi, and Bienvenidos Bitches. Thank you so much for listening. Fruit Loops is a true crime, history, and comedy podcast that delves into the often overlooked stories of serial killers of color and, more importantly, the victims. We take deep dives into the lives and crimes of these killers worldwide, while also examining the history, culture, and social factors that may have influenced their actions. And the reason that we cover these crimes is because they often go unnoticed by the public. And why is that? Because in the simplest of terms, the news is racist. Allegedly.
And we are Wendy and Beth. She's Wendy, a Black Latinx woman, and I'm Beth, and I just happen to be white. That's just a little piece of who we are. Another piece is that although we are both fascinated by true crime, really fascinated by true crime, and we know a lot about it, keep in mind that we are not journalists, investigators, or psychologists, and the opinions expressed in this podcast are just that, our opinions.
All right. Who are we talking about today, friend?
Well, this is our episode 262. And in this episode, we will dive into the chilling story of Magdalena Solís, known as La Gran Sacerdotisa de la Sangre, the High Priestess of Blood. Once an ordinary girl from northern Mexico, Magdalena Solís rose to lead a murderous cult driven by delusion, power, and ritual sacrifice.
Yeah, this story was chilling and also fascinating. We don't always see this kind of cult-like murderous power with women.
Yeah.
Let alone with women of color, right? So
yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, I couldn't get enough of the resources on this case.
Yeah, it was really interesting.
Anything I could find on it. Anyway, so before we get into it, how you doing?
I'm doing good. So on the day this drops, Halloween will be tomorrow. So
Yay!
Happy Halloween, Fruities.
Yes, Feliz Halloween or Dia de las Brujas, everybody.
Yeah. And are you doing anything for Halloween?
Still undecided. I feel like we should.
Yeah.
But we live in the country. You can't really go like
houses for trick-or-treating?
No.
So
I don't know.
So we used to, when we lived in Connecticut, it was it wasn't the country, but it was still, the houses were pretty far apart. So we used to go to different neighborhoods where the houses were closer together.
Ah, there's an idea. That's a good idea. Yeah, we have to sort of look on the internets and
find a neighborhood.
See where do the kids go around here? I do not know. We'll find out, but we got to do something. I mean, candy, a must. Outfit, a must.
Yeah.
Scary movies, also a must. Halloween's on a Friday, so
it's going to be lit.
Yeah, there's going to be lots going on and plenty of time to do it. Just not sure. Nothing's on the schedule. So whatever happens, I know it's going to be great.
Yeah.
And for y'all over there in Arizona, man, I'm just hoping you have the
awesome.
wittiest time ever. Yeah. And up in the driveway and whatnot.
Yeah, we're going to have our usual driveway party.
Hell
handing
yeah.
out candy to the kids, and all the neighbors gather and hang out. And since it's on Friday, we get to hang out longer than usual. So yeah, it's going to be fun.
Oh man, I love that. Yeah, no, this is an exciting time of year. Fruities, let us know what y'all are up to.
Yeah.
But stay safe out there. Want to hear,
Yes.
make sure everybody's having a good time, but a safe time. So let's take a quick break and then we'll get into the story when we come back.
Okay.
Hey there, it's Dr. Sanjay Gupta with some exciting news to share. CNN is now streaming. That means you can read, watch, and stream everything in one subscription. You can watch news live 24/7. You can also explore catch-up videos and explainer videos, and you can also watch a library of CNN's originals, including my latest documentary, It Doesn't Have to Hurt. Just go to cnn.com/all-access.
Remind us, Beth, who is the subject today?
The subject is Magdalena Solís, known as La Gran Sacerdotisa de la Sangre, the High Priestess of Blood. She was one of Mexico's most infamous cult leaders. In the early 1960s, she transformed a small-town scam into a reign of terror marked by manipulation, ritual sacrifice, and murder, leaving behind one of the darkest chapters in the country's criminal history.
Well, now it's time for the Love and Light portion of our program where we say rest in power to the victims whose lives were cut short and ended rather horrifically, and love and light to anybody that loved them and the entire community of Yerba Buena that was left in the wake of these crimes.
Yeah.
The exact number of victims is not known, although Solís was officially convicted of 2 murders and there were officially 8. Estimates of her total number of victims range from 8 to as many as 16. The names of the victims that we do know are Sebastián Guerrero, who was a 14-year-old kid, Luis Martinez, a police officer, age unknown, and Celina Salvana, a teenager, also unknown age. So now let's get into the setting and the early life of Magdalena Solís. Take us there, Beth.
So this story unfolds in the small village of Yerba Buena, located in the southern state of Tamaulipas, Mexico, near the border with the state of Nuevo León, and roughly 200 miles south of Laredo, Texas.
The village sits at the base of the Sierra Madre Oriental, a limestone mountain range in northeastern Mexico that's often considered an extension of the Rockies. Up the Rockies! Stretching nearly 700 miles, about 1,100 kilometers from north to south, the range is known for its vast network of caves formed over millennia as water eroded the soft rock.
Above Yerba Buena lies one such cluster of large limestone caves, a setting that will become central to this story.
Yerba Buena was an ejido, a communal farming settlement made up of about 20 families, roughly 50 to 75 people in total. According to some accounts, the residents had migrated from the central Mexican state of Guanajuato to establish the ejido in Tamaulipas.
So what exactly is an ejido? Well, prior to European invasion, indigenous communities in central Mexico lived in groups with shared land. Like many indigenous communities, nobody owned the land, and they worked together for the benefit of the community.
After the Spanish conquest of the Aztec Empire between 1519 and 1521, many indigenous communities were allowed to keep their traditional systems of shared land. But Spaniards applied their own terms to these community lands, ejidos.
But when Mexico gained independence from Spain in 1821, the new government ended the Crown's special protections for indigenous communities. Officials viewed the continued separation of indigenous villages as a problem and believed that breaking up communal landholding was key to integrating indigenous people into Mexican society.
That's that take the Indian out of the man thing.
Yes,
that we see over
in
here
the
up
United
north,
States,
yeah,
in Canada. Yeah. Yep.
Australia, etc., all over the world.
Yeah.
In 1855, the government launched major reforms that allowed for the sale of lands owned by indigenous communities and the Catholic Church. This led to years of civil unrest, war, and even a French invasion.
Later, under General Porfirio Diaz, who came into power in 1876, policies encouraged growth of huge private estates called haciendas. Most villages lost their land entirely, leaving peasants, mostly indigenous and mestizo, poor and landless.
Diaz ruled almost continuously until 1911. That's a long time.
Yeah.
A period known as the Porfiriato. While his government brought a measure of stability, it relied on repression to do so, crushing any strikes, rebellions, and dissent while favoring foreign investors and wealthy landowners.
What an asshole.
Hmm.
The widespread suffering and inequality helped spark the Mexican Revolution, a long and violent struggle between 1910 and 1920 that began with the hope of restoring land to the peasants. Pancho Villa and Emiliano Zapata were key leaders during the Mexican Revolution.
The resulting Mexican Constitution included Article 27, which gave the government power to take back privately held land and redistribute it. However, large-scale land reform did not really begin until 1934, when President Lázaro Cárdenas took office.
Cárdenas's reforms were sweeping and transformative. He expanded the ejido system, encouraging collective farming as a way to break up massive estates and return land to the rural communities.
The process typically began when landless farmers petitioned the government to create an ejido in their area. If approved, the land was expropriated from large landowners and redistributed. The petitioners became ejidatarios, members who would farm the land indefinitely as long as they used it productively. While ejidatarios did not own their plots outright, they had lifelong use rights, which could also be passed down to their children.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So our subject today, Magdalena Solís, was born in Tamaulipas, Mexico, sometime between 1945 and 1947. The reports vary. She came from a poor and likely dysfunctional family. At around 12 years old, Magdalena became involved in sex work under the control of her brother, Eleazar, who acted as her pimp.
That's a new one for Fruit Loops Facts. It might be hard to understand how a brother could exploit his own sister, but reports suggest that Eleazar was also involved in sex work. Since both were teenagers doing sex work, they were likely living on the streets with no parental supervision or care. Either their parents were gone or deceased, just doing really whatever these two young people could do to survive.
Yeah. And they were either born in Monterrey or moved there at some point. Monterrey is the capital of the northeastern Mexican state of Nuevo León. And if you recall, Nuevo León is right next to the state of Tamaulipas, and Yerba Buena was right on the border there. And in the 1960s, the population of Monterrey was probably around 400,000.
In 1963, when these crimes came to light, Magdalena was still very young, somewhere between 16 and 18. Eleazar may have been the same age or older. Reports do vary. At least one source said they were twins.
Yeah.
So now let's get into the timeline. What do you got, Beth?
Well, back to Yerba Buena. In late 1962, two brothers who were petty criminals showed up in the tiny ejido. We don't know why they went there, why they picked that village. But in any case, the brothers, Santos and Cayetano Hernandez, showed up claiming to be prophets of a powerful and exiled Inca god.
Skirt, Inca?
Inca, yeah.
The Incas are in South America,
South
sir.
America, yeah.
Okay, so they told the villagers that gold had been buried in the nearby mountains centuries
There's
ago.
gold in them
And
nar
they-
hills.
Yep. Okay. And the two brothers promised that worship and sacrifices would lead to unimaginable riches hidden in the nearby caves. Wow.
Yeah. That story struck a familiar chord with the villagers. Tales of buried treasure, especially those hidden in caves, are deeply woven into Mexican folklore. Legends abound of Spanish conquistadors concealing their plunder, of Pancho Villa's fortune tucked away in a cavern, and of Montezuma's lost treasure, supposedly hidden by the Aztecs to protect it from foreign invaders.
You know, and this got my little culture corner wheels turning. So welcome. I was thinking about this as I was roller skating the other day and singing, "You think you own whatever land you land on. The earth is just that thing you can claim. But I know every rock and tree and creature has a life, has a spirit, has a name." Just thinking about that song from Pocahontas and how she describes to this newcomer, like, this stuff means something.
Right.
I don't know what you're talking about, gold and shit, but this means something to me. And just thinking about like how Spanish conquistadors and colonizers in general were obsessed with finding gold.
Yeah, that's why they went there in the first place.
Yeah, but bruh, like now we're at the point where it's like, this is a finite resource, y'all.
Yeah.
And gold is not going to save any of us. But when they encountered the Aztecs or indigenous Mesoamerican people, they woefully misunderstood the indigenous reverence for these sacred sites as signs of hidden wealth. Like, they love it so much, they must be hiding gold.
Yeah.
And the colonial like mentality and unfamiliarity and misinterpretation of indigenous respect, love, and relationship with the earth, I think helped fuel these stories of treasure hunts and myths.
Yeah, what are they hiding?
Yes, exactly. I don't know that the land like protects and provides for us and we, I don't know, take care of it. That's it. That's the magic.
That's it.
That's the gold.
So the villagers who were poor and whose sources described as uneducated, they were desperate for hope. So they were easily manipulated by the brothers into believing the far-fetched fable of Inca gold, even though the Incas were from, as you said, South America and not Mexico.
Yeah, that was one of the first, like, that's a snafu, if I would say.
A little snafu.
A little snafu, yeah. And again, if this was a movie, this is not a movie. This appears to be a very true story in which people died, etc. But that would be like the setup for like the plot.
Right.
Anyway, my understanding is that the villagers were also a mix of mestizo and indigenous people who were displaced in all that history that we mentioned earlier. But they did have agricultural knowledge and skill. And they may have already had some rooting in indigenous and ritualistic practices. So somebody introducing another set of them may not have been, you know,
so unusual
or
So people today living in the United States might think, oh, this is weird, but they might not have thought it was so weird.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's my friend. She helps me get my thoughts out.
So the brothers took up residence in one of the unoccupied jacales, an adobe-style hut, in the village at the base of the mountain below the caves. Using sleight-of-hand tricks, they convinced the villagers that they had supernatural powers.
Wow. They fabricated strange rituals, which included billowing incense and animal sacrifice that were performed in one of the many caves of the mountain. After a time, these rituals began to include sexual tributes, both from the sources I listened to, both men and women, essentially turning into orgies.
They demanded worship along with monetary and sexual tributes, and for the most part, the villagers complied. But one villager, Jesus Rubio, had never fallen for the Hernandez brothers' scam. Eventually, he got them to admit in private that it was all a con. And in return, they cut him in on their scam.
So Rubio became their inside man, spying on his fellow villagers, tracking any signs of discontent, and reporting everything back to the brothers. As the months passed and no gold was recovered, Rubio reported that the villagers were growing restless and feeling betrayed.
So the brothers recruited a girl from another village named Selena Savannah to pose as a priestess. They had her dance naked in front of everyone, and that calmed things down for a few more weeks. But when gold still was not being uncovered, doubt once again began to creep into the minds of the villagers.
Realizing that their con was unraveling and seeking to strengthen their deception, the Hernandez brothers devised a desperate plan. The Hernandez brothers told the villagers that they would leave to go talk to their gods. Give us a minute, we're going to consult amongst ourselves, and they would come back with a goddess.
They then traveled to Monterey, intent on finding a sex worker who could convincingly pose as a goddess. After extensive searching, some sources say they interviewed as many as 14 women for the job. They encountered Magdalena Solís.
I thought that was interesting that they interviewed or auditioned so many
people.
candidates.
Yeah, because I think what, this is just speculation, but I think when they got Selena to come, they were thinking, oh, she will appease all these people, but Selena wasn't able to pull it off. So then when they went to Monterey to look for somebody else, they know they wanted a sex worker because they wanted her to be able to, do all the sex stuff. But then they wanted an actress as well. Somebody who could act.
Yes. Well, they brought in the big guns. And
yes, they did.
Woo! Yes. Here we go. Magdalena, boy, Beth, as she said, already had acting chops. She had a side hustle as a fortune teller and medium, claiming that she could channel the spirits of long-dead curanderas, which are traditional healers and shamans. And the brothers recruited Magdalena and her brother Eleazar, convincing them to return to Yerba Buena to take part in the brothers' scheme.
Her arrival was dramatic. During an initiation ceremony held inside a cave, Magdalena appeared through thick incense smoke, dressed in imitation royal Inca garb. The humble villagers, already primed for belief, were awestruck. Magdalena seized the moment, quickly asserting dominance, identifying key male followers, and drawing them in through ritualized sex.
Yeah, it was like she got there and she was like, I just got to hear this.
Over.
I'm ready for my close up. And interestingly, Eleazar was presented as the reincarnation of Saint Francis of Assisi. Like, what? Anyway.
What does that have to do with anything?
I don't know. I don't know. His name's got Saint in front of it, so I guess he's important. Anyway, the disillusioned villagers renewed their faith in the brothers' supposed divine mission. Blending Aztec and Incan mythology, Magdalena declared herself the reincarnation of the Aztec goddess Coatlicue. And there you have it, Coatlicue. There she is.
So Coatlicue, her name means serpent skirt in the language of the Aztecs, and takes her name from her appearance. She is often depicted wearing a skirt of intertwined serpents. And in Aztec symbolism, the serpents represent fertility and the life-giving power of the earth.
That's why there's a snake on the Mexican flag.
Yeah.
She is the Aztec earth goddess who embodies both creation and destruction, the eternal cycle of life and death. In mythology, Coatlicue is the mother of Huitzilopochtli, the god of the sun and war, as well as Coyolxauhqui, the moon goddess, and the stars, who were her other children.
So in essence, Coatlicue is the goddess of paradox, nurturing yet terrifying, a mother who gives life and consumes it. embodying the full cycle of existence. Magdalena Solís exploited the myth of Coatlicue to give her divine authority. She claimed to be the living incarnation of the earth goddess, presenting herself as a figure to be both worshipped and feared, just like Coatlicue.
I'll say. So under fake Coatlicue's rule, the brothers' petty con transformed into something much darker. The sect descended into madness, including drug-fueled orgies, sexual violence, and sadistic rituals involving cannabis, peyote, and blood. Those who questioned Magdalena's authority faced brutal punishment.
Magdalena grew increasingly fixated on blood rituals, claiming they were vital to maintain her divine power. At first, she demanded animal blood, and the frightened villagers complied, sacrificing their livestock and even their pets to satisfy her escalating thirst. But soon, animal blood was no longer enough.
Now, I just wanted to say that blood, people around the world do eat and drink animal blood and cook with it. It's got flavor and iron and nutrients. I saw one article describe it as drinkable meat.
Yeah, gross.
But it's used. Well, I mean, we went to England and they had blood sausage on a menu I saw. And I was like, okay, I can't yuck somebody's yum. Anyway, somewhere in the world, people
consume blood.
And consume blood. And maybe it's not something we hear about every day, but it does happen. And that's all I wanted to say.
Okay.
But back to the story. At the same time, Jesus Rubio, who was now reporting to Magdalena, told her that the villagers had grown tired of being exploited, tired of being used for sex, and of handing over what little money and food they had. They wanted the gold the Hernandez brothers had promised them. And isn't it interesting? I mean, I'll get into this in my tapes, but they're sick of being exploited. And who else was, exploited as a child? Hello?
Yep. Yeah. So that very night, Magdalena decided to confront their frustration head on. The group gathered in a cave, and then 2 members were identified by Magdalena as unbelievers. In a public quote-unquote trial, the terrified villagers were ordered to murder them.
Too frightened to refuse, they did it. Some reports say that the 2 villagers were lynched. Others say that they were stoned to death. In either case, it was at that moment that the cult crossed over into full-blown ritual murder.
The victim's blood was mixed with chicken blood, cannabis, and or peyote in a chalice, which Magdalena and her followers drank from. What began as deception turned into horror as she began instituting more and more of these types of blood rituals.
Magdalena's mind completely unraveled under the influence of drugs and her growing delusion. She was doing drugs and becoming more and more delusional. And for the first time in her life, she wasn't a victim or an outcast. She was revered, feared, and worshipped.
That had to have been intoxicating.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The illusion of power overtook her, and she soon fully believed her own myth. A journalist later described her as suffering from a severe theological psychosis, calling her a religious fanatic consumed by delusions of grandeur, sexual perversion, and bloodlust.
And it's unknown exactly how many times these blood rituals took place, but definitely multiple times. Cult members would gather in their mountain cave, and Magdalena would order everyone to take part in beating and mutilating the victim.
After the victim had been brutally attacked but was still apparently alive, Magdalena would deliver the final blow, cutting open their chest with a sacrificial dagger and finally cutting out their heart.
As with the first 2 victims, their blood was mixed with chicken blood, cannabis, and or peyote, which Magdalena and her followers drank, believing it granted them divine power and immortality. Sometimes the victims' hearts were used in ceremonies.
According to author Brad Steiger in Real Vampires, Night Stalkers, and Creatures from the Dark Side, the participants claimed the blood rituals bestowed supernatural strength. Magdalena herself insisted that as Coatlicue, she needed human blood to maintain her youth and immortality, declaring that blood is the only food of the gods.
Now revered as La Gran Sacerdotisa de la Sangre, the High Priestess of Blood, for 2 horrific months in the spring of 1963, the killings continued. Magdalena demanded increasingly violent rituals, claiming the sacrifices were necessary for the cult's prosperity and the discovery of the hidden treasure.
The cult's downfall began when a 14-year-old boy named Sebastián Guerrero accidentally stumbled upon one of the ceremonies. Magdalena had decided that the priestess, Selena Silvana, needed to be sacrificed.
Supposedly, Selena agreed to it, sharing the belief that Magdalena was truly a goddess. She thought the sacrifice would bring her rewards. Her soul would ascend to one of the highest levels of the Aztec afterlife, and the villagers would be showered with gold.
So Selena, who was, if you recall, a teenage girl, was tied to a cross inside the cave, her arms held above her head until she eventually lost consciousness. She was then beaten and slashed to death by the villagers, some of whom used machetes. Her heart was then cut out, her blood drained into the chalice, and her body burned.
This episode, I learned so much from getting into this case. But I also didn't know that if you have your arms above your head for an extended period of time, you could pass out.
I did
or
not
lose
know that either.
consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Add it to the list. Anyway, so Sebastián Guerrero witnessed all this and fled in terror. He reached the police station in Villagran, about 10 miles away, and pleaded with the police to investigate the vampiros. Officers dismissed the boy and said, okay. Mañana, mijo. Okay, we'll do it tomorrow. So the next day, Officer Luis Martinez accompanied Sebastián back to the cave, but neither was ever seen alive again.
Introducing Meta Ray-Ban Display, the world's most advanced AI glasses. With a full color display built into the lens of the glasses, it's there when you need it and gone when you don't. Send and receive messages, translate or caption live conversations, collaborate with Meta AI, and more. Be one of the first to try Meta Ray-Ban Display. Visit meta.com/Meta Ray-Ban Display to book a demo and find your pair.
So now, don't mean to get excited, but now we're getting to the investigation and the arrest. Hit it, Beth.
So when Officer Luis Martinez failed to return, the police went looking for him. And on May 31st, 1963, a large contingent of police and soldiers raided Yerba Buena. Magdalena and Eleazar Solis were found hiding in a shack on a nearby farm and taken into custody.
Santos Hernandez was killed in a shootout at the caves, while Cayetano Hernandez met his end at the hands of Jesus Rubio. Remember him?
Yeah.
Rubio later claimed he killed Cayetano to take part of the high priest's body as protection, though other reports suggest he murdered him after being denied his share of the profits.
Yeah, that makes a little more sense since Rubio didn't really buy into their scam.
Yeah, that's what I think. But I don't know.
Don't know, yeah. Other cult members fled into the mountains, hiding in various caves and firing at authorities. Many were killed when the police and soldiers returned fire. Those who survived the shootout were taken into custody.
Once the cult had been fully neutralized, police searched the area and found the bodies of 14-year-old Sebastián Guerrero and Luis Martinez. They were discovered on the same farm where Magdalena and Eleazar had been arrested.
Luis had been nearly decapitated with a machete, and his heart had been removed, a clear indication that he'd been sacrificed in one of Magdalena's blood rituals. What happened to Sebastián is less certain, though it's believed he met a similar end. And a search of nearby caves revealed 6 more bodies, many of them dismembered.
Okay, so let's get into the trial. Now, within 2 weeks, 12 cult members were found guilty of 6 murders.
In 2 weeks.
Oh,
so
not in
yeah.
2 weeks? Within 2
No,
weeks?
within 2 weeks. Yeah, I wasn't correcting you. I was just saying that happened within 2 weeks after they've been arrested.
That's pretty local.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, crazy fast. However, none of them would testify against Magdalena or her brother Eleazar. The Solís siblings were ultimately convicted only for the murders of Sebastián Guerrero and Luis Martínez.
Without testimony from the others, their involvement in the remaining killings couldn't be proven. And I'm not sure why that is, but I think because Sebastián and Luis's bodies were found on the farm where they had been hiding, and the other bodies were found in the mountains. So maybe proximity. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it also seems like not enough time to conduct a thorough multiple murder investigation.
True.
And guessing just by how terrifying this was, and the community's like, they want their
justice,
municipal authorities and people to do something and do it fast.
Yeah, true.
And it sounds like that's what they did.
Yeah. So each sibling received a 50-year prison sentence, while the other cult members were sentenced to roughly 30 years apiece.
In total, it's been estimated that as many as 16 villagers were killed by the cult between 1962 and 1963. So now we're going to tell you, where are they now? Well, Beth?
Well, it's not clear what happened to the perpetrators of these crimes. Don't know anything about the 12 cult members who were found guilty. It's been reported in some places that Magdalena or Eleazar died in prison, but we don't know for sure. If they did survive and they completed their 50-year prison terms, they would have been released in 2013.
Right, and they would be like late 70s?
60s, late 60s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because they were teenagers still when this happened, which is nuts. They were teenagers.
But like today in 2023, wouldn't they be in their late 70s?
Oh, today. Yeah. You're right.
Wait, we're not in 2023.
2025, yeah. So you're right. They would be in their 70s. Yeah.
Okay. And again, there were many bodies found, many people who lost their lives. And so we don't want to forget about the real victims of the case, certainly.
Yeah.
Which arguably, this case is so sad, I think is everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody involved.
Everybody involved was a victim, except for maybe the Hernandez brothers.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. But speaking of what we think about this, let's get into it. And listeners, if you've got thoughts, you know where to find us.
Yeah.
What do you think about this case, Beth?
Well, I was curious about what motivated the Hernandez brothers, speaking of the Hernandez brothers.
Okay.
I mean, they were scammers, so it was probably a mix of greed, a desire to exploit others, sheer laziness, just getting villagers to provide whatever they wanted with little effort. I mean, they got whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
It was nuts.
Yeah.
But also, according to a man who claimed to have met one of the girls from Yerba Buena, part of the story that was never covered by the press at the time was that some of the young women and girls were forced into sexual servitude in towns along the Tamaulipas and Texas border. He alleged that the Hernandez brothers built a network of girls coerced into sex work in places like Matamoros, Reynosa, and Nuevo Laredo, with many sold to organized crime groups and frequently moved between towns to avoid detection. So that's possible. I don't really know for sure, but it would have provided another source of money for them. So there's that.
Yes.
Now, Magdalena Solís, what motivated her? Well, she has been described as suffering from theological psychosis and religious delusions, genuinely believing herself to be a goddess. I don't really wonder how she got there.
I don't think any of us need to wonder how she got there.
Yeah, she was forced into survival sex work at the age of 12. That would cause psychological issues for anyone. She was doing drugs. She had these men around her who were, egging her on, basically. Now, her crimes were very unusual for women.
Yeah.
They combined sexual sadism, ritual violence, blood drinking, acts that she justified by claiming that human blood was sacred, and essential to maintain her divine power and eternal youth.
Mm-hmm.
And by aligning herself with the goddess Coatlicue, she reframed murder, exploitation, and sacrifice as holy duties meant to ensure the people's prosperity. So she was doing a good thing, you know.
Yeah, I see. You just reframe. Just
it was a
glass half full
rationalization
of blood.
But I think she enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Well, the power and status that it gave her, probably. And as you always say, hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
And so she probably got a kick out of it.
Yeah, I agree. I think the trauma that I wonder if somebody must have done something sadistic to her at some point in her
I'm
young
sure.
life.
I mean, she was doing sex work at the age of 12.
Pretty quickly. Like, this whole saga was a couple of months. 6 weeks, I saw one source said.
Yeah, it wasn't very long at all.
It escalated very quickly. The Hernandez brothers were so dumb. And
they were just lazy and greedy was my feeling.
Yeah. But you know what I've been looking at? Because you know how we're right now in 2025 getting tons of spam calls, and the economy's not doing as great as they're telling us because fraud is going up. And that tends to happen, frauds and scams, when people are struggling.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So there's economically and perhaps culturally like an environment ripe for scammers like the Hernandez brothers. And the cult couldn't have existed without believers and cooperators. And the system required folks to be afraid and, not trust each other. Like, there was a spy among them, and any dissent was, heavily punished. So everybody's like paranoid. And when the power started to slip away, they said, y'all watch this, and brought in Magdalena, who may or may not have believed in the con at the beginning, but she sure as shit started to believe in herself. And her
she got
power.
High on her own supply.
Woo, she sure did. And God, she turned so nasty. Just nasty shit. Nasty and deadly. And I don't think spirituality is a game. I don't think it's a toy. But bad and greedy people like the Hernandez brothers used it as a tool for their personal gain and, hyped up Magdalena. Spirituality, I think, is an important part of being a human being in general and, to survival. And at first, I think Magdalena maybe, was like, this is a con, I'm going to just go with it. But then she went full method. And she was also a victim of the trauma and sexualized abuse she experienced as a young person who didn't get to be a child at all. The victim became the victimizer and became drunk with power. Like Beth said, it's intoxicating. Like, I get to be a goddess and worshipped, and I ain't got to do what I was doing over there before. Yes, please. And the villagers cooperated, believing that someday they too could have a taste of the good life. They just believe, if I just stay faithful. And their cooperation also included engaging in evil acts on their community members. And I think they were victims too. I did not love how sources sort of reduced this community to being uneducated. And, I think maybe they weren't book smart, but obviously they were educated in other ways, in like agriculture and community. And those were valuable to them and their survival. And they did eventually start to wake the fuck up, and things got more dangerous for them and everybody there. Money, sex, and power are so intoxicating, and also so is doing drugs. I just miss saying that. It's been a long time.
It's been a while.
And this case was just so gosh darn fascinating.
Yeah, it was really interesting.
It's got everything. A small, rural, isolated community. Snake oil salesman rolls into town.
Snakes.
The con man gets phased out by the high priestess. There's sex, and there's murder, and there's human sacrifice, and tragedy all throughout. I also felt it was informative. Like, there are lessons in this case about truth and humanity and spirituality and authenticity and reverence for land as a provider, not just like, something I can extract, and get profits from, and all of that stuff. So Let us know what y'all think, Fruities. I don't want to say goodbye to this case. Like, I want to learn more. It was
a good one. Yeah, it was really interesting.
Yeah. Another thing that was interesting is there were people in the comment sections of some of the podcasts and YouTube videos like, I'm from Mexico. I had no idea about this
Really?
case. Yeah.
Wow. Pretty wild.
Pretty wild indeed.
Happy Halloween!
Oh, boy. All right, Beth, where can the people find us?
Our website is fruitloopspod.com, and we use Fruit Loops Pod for all of our social media. The footnotes for each episode can be found on our website. Plus, check it out for the different ways that you can support the show. You can also join us on Patreon, where we have hundreds of hours of bonus content. You can also support us by supporting our sponsors, or by giving us a 5-star review.
5 stars only, please.
Don't forget to subscribe.
That's right. Now, this is a weekly podcast, and episodes drop on Thursdays. So until next time, look alive, y'all. It's crazy out there. Ooh, I gotta charge my phone. 1 second. Sorry about that. That's how behind I am on things. I was at 15%.
Oh my God. That is unacceptable.
Never. Are you kidding me? I don't even think about leaving the house if it's not above 50.
Yeah, that's just insane.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for understanding my perspective, which to most people doesn't make any damn sense. I feel seen.
I start panicking when it gets that low. Yeah.
Oh, yes, indeedy. Okay.
Nuevo Leon is on the other side of the other side of the mountains. Never mind. Let me start over. I was trying to I don't know what I'm doing.
You were going somewhere. You were giving us a picture. Go ahead.
But
let it work it out. I'm trying to see where you're taking this. I thought you were going to paint a picture of geography so I would know where Nuevo Leon is.
All right, let me try. Let me try it again. Okay.
Okay.
La Gran Sacerdotisa?
Sacerdote is a priest. Sacerdotista is a priestess.
Okay.
Sacerdotista.
Sacer.
Like sacer. Mm-hmm.
Sacerdotisa de la Sangre. Let me say it all together.
The exact murder of victim or number of victims is not
murder
known.
Of victims. Can you
Sorry
say
about
it again?
That. Yeah. Okay.
The exact murder of victims.
The exact murder. Yeah. So the exact
Southern Tamaulipas.
Tamaulipas. Like MAW.
Okay. Tamaulipas. Let me start that.
A period known as Porfiriato.
Porfiriato. You said Porfiriato, and it's Porfiriato.
Uh-huh. I noticed that as well, and now I'm going to say it again.
Okay.
Okay. So, roughly 50 to Coatlicue. Coatlicue. Yes. And there you have it. Coatlicue. There she is.
Coatlicue.
Countless, as Pam Bondi would say. And cut that out. Sorry. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Anyway.
Happy Halloween!
Okay, well, see you on the internet. Get some sleep. Love you very much. Okay, bye.